Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to my podcast. And this week, my guest is Morgan E. Nichols, and she is the CEO and private wealth advisor of LifeBranch Wealth Partners. She is a nationally recognized advisor. Morgan helps high net worth professionals and fellow advisors build intentional legacies through value-based financial planning and authentic client relationships. Welcome.
Gary, thanks for having me here today.
Great. So Morgan, give us, some of your background. Where'd you go to college? What kind of got you started in the advising field?
I think, Gary, that I was probably destined to become a financial advisor and be in this industry. I'm actually the firstborn of two financial advisors. I did my undergrad degree in international business at Pepperdine University. And then I started working in corporate finance in Boston after college. I was able to do my master's in finance at Harvard while I was working up there, and enjoyed the experience, enjoyed corporate finance, but realized I really wanted to get back to working with clients individually. And I had this allure of being into business for myself. I saw my parents do it. They did it successfully. They worked hard. And I wanted the flexibility that came with being a business owner. Some days I feel the flexibility more than others.
I was curious, what flexibility?
And that's a really good part of being intentional. And where does that flexibility set in? So in 2015, I had the chance to join a practice in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, knowing that I was part of that long-term leadership plan and would end up taking over the client relationships and leading the team in the future. So it was actually early 2022 at the ripe old age of 31 that I stepped into the business owner shoes, and it was exhausting early on. I had some moments. I said, what did I just do? But it's been great because in 2022, we were around 230 million in assets, and we've grown that over 600 million at this point in time. So a lot of strategic growth. Our team has doubled from about 8 or 9 people to about 18. And I really just absolutely love what I do.
Right. So you have a whole lot of initials behind your name. Can you tell us some about those designations that you have and what they mean? Because so many times people will see, the initials, and nobody lots of times knows what those mean. And I think looking at some of them are very, very, all of them are important, but some of them are very important because it gives you different distinctions that a lot of other wealth advisors may not have.
It's alphabet soup, pretty much. You see someone and then you see all these designations. I'll maybe walk through them in order of how I acquired them. So when I started my career, I started with the CRPC, Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor. After a while, if you have the designation, you might forget exactly what it stood for. But that was a really good foundation in understanding key considerations around retirement, and it was a great stepping stone in preparation for the CFP designation, so Certified Financial Planner. I was actually working on that at the same time as my master's, and I guess I like to take on a lot at once.
A glutton for punishment, right?
Glutton for punishment. I have a little knack for that. Certified Financial Planner is really recognized in the industry where we're a fiduciary and really dives deep on all areas of financial planning, estates, taxes, all of that. I then, as I've continued to enhance my skill set and what we offer, I have the APMA, so Accredited Portfolio Manager Advisor. It's one of
Yeah.
those terms, but the idea is really with the due diligence we take in the investments and how we're managing the assets. And then the BFA. So that's been probably one of the most fun ones. I've added it more recently, and it's behavioral financial advice or behavioral financial advisor, which really gets into the mindset behind working with clients and making decisions and really led into this whole intentional legacy and how do we help clients.
So going down that road there, so obviously in the background there, your book, Intentional Legacy. Tell us what motivated you to want to write a book.
So I wrote the book and I co-authored it with Kelly Bays. And really what we found was, when you have an intentional legacy, it's realizing that all the money in the world doesn't necessarily add meaning to one's life. It's really all the decisions that you make along the way. And I wanted a way to help our clients navigate some of the important discussions, decisions, feasibility. And we had worked with many clients over time, and this gave us an opportunity to boil down those lessons and help them see why to work with an advisor, why to do planning, and how do we start thinking deeper because it's not about everything at the end. Again, it's about the journey.
Right. Um, you know,
Um,
in
yeah.
talking about your book, you talk about being purpose driven, and so forth. How lots of times business owners have their businesses because they were good at whatever their business is, accounting or plumbing or anything. But that's not, I'm going to say, where their core values are. That's not their passion. How do you help them align that finance that they need because of the business with their core values and their, what their passion is?
So aligning their core business with their passion.
Yeah.
So I think it's stepping back to understand when we're working with a business owner, we have to be able to help them navigate all the financial decisions that come into the situation. They often think when they're a business owner or they have assets, it's well, you're an advisor, you're going to manage the money, and I'm going to see the statements.
Mhm.
And we just dive so much deeper than that. We really work on coaching them holistically. There's all different triggers that are going to happen in the life of being a business owner where you have to make key decisions. So if we can, I like to say, you can go and you can research, and there's so much data out there on the internet, but you don't always know what to do with it. So it's like going to the gym and seeing all the equipment versus working with a trainer that's going to help guide you, give you coaching. And I think as we're moving forward over the next decade, we're living in an age of AI where, you can get so much information at your fingertips, but you need to know what to do with it. And you need a coach that can help you with all of that along the way. What I see with business owners is many times they're passionate about their business. They've been doing it for a long time, and often that they've had to make a lot of sacrifices as they've built their business. The business in and of itself can take on a life of its own. So we work with them as well to pause and reflect and say, okay, what is the purpose behind having this business? And what really are your top values? I like to say, I work a lot. I'm a business owner. I said I wanted flexibility. I work, 80 hours a week, whatever it is. And so if you sit there and you say, well, family is one of my top values, but you're working 90 hours a week, you might not be showing up for your family the way you thought you would when you started the business. And it's not about an overnight shift, but it's about looking through the small things along the way and saying, is it your goal to work as hard as you can in this business? Are there opportunities for you to make changes where we can give you that peace of mind that I think there's a lot of times this, what I call a fog of uncertainty. And it's not knowing, can I make the next step? Can I retire? What does that look like? And if we can help do the planning to clarify that, then people can spend the time where it's most meaningful to them.
Yeah, I think that and again, you preach this a lot, especially in your book about being intentional. And I think so many times business owners aren't necessarily intentional; they're more reactive. And depending on what comes at them, they're reacting to it instead of kind of plotting that plan and then working that plan. Um, what are some of the common mistakes that you're seeing the business owners make when they aren't being intentional?
So I see issues come up in a few different areas, whether it's contingency planning, succession planning, windfall planning. So we will work with business owners to think through these areas. For example, what if you get hit by the beer truck?
Yeah.
And I was actually talking with a business owner yesterday, and his wife continues to ask him, so every time they take off on an airplane, what happens to the business if something happens to you? And he knows that's a pain point in their marriage. So having a game plan that gets worked out, and we can coordinate, again, we coordinate with professionals, we coordinate with attorneys and CPAs and everyone to make sure that if something were to happen, your family isn't scrambling during that time, because it's not just about getting the eventual value out of the practice, but if your family has to be so focused on sorting things with the business that they don't have the time to grieve something that's happened with you, that's just really, really sad. I also see on the succession planning side, again, if you've thrown yourself into your business, sometimes it's been you're at the helm, and it's who's going to take it on and how are you going to maximize that value. Family business, I've seen family businesses, I've been part of family businesses, and it's thinking through a lot of times, well, we want the next generation to take it over. Many times that doesn't work out exactly as planned. So I think it's good to have the best intentions, but also to always think about plan B. I also see, the tax strategies. There's so many tax strategies along the way, and missed opportunities. We really, by the time you work with your CPA, the books are closed for the year. So it's looking at what can we take advantage of. And that really leans to the windfall as well. It's okay, well, I want to sell my business in 5 years. Well, there's the strategic planning. What are we doing tax wise every year leading up? What are we doing that year? What are we doing several years beyond? And the longer we have to plan for that, the better. And more of just a practical day to day thing is when we're doing planning with clients, business owners have a unique situation where some cash flow items may run through the business that eventually will be on their personal balance sheets, or on, when we're doing analysis, those are not going to be run through the business when the individual retires. So we really take a deep dive and we look at that to really wrap our arms around the client's or the business owner's whole situation, and again, try to create clarity and make sure that they can sleep easier at night knowing that we're quarterbacking and making sure that these key areas are being addressed.
Yeah, I think lots of times business owners, because again, they're at the helm. Everybody, they're no saying, "Hey, the buck stops here." But the problem is if you haven't built out that management team under you, when something happens to you for whatever it is, the business can't continue because you're the one who's always done everything, and you're the one who kept everything so close to your best. Um, that there isn't that. Or you talked about succession planning. I have personally found that lots of times that next generation doesn't want to have anything to do with the business. And a lot of it is because we do work that 80, 90 hours a week, and they're looking at it, hey, no way I want to work like that, even though they don't understand, the sacrifices that we have made for them by doing this. So I think that that's sometimes that isn't being communicated. And I think one of the things I want to point out, that you're saying through all of this, you haven't yet said anything about we're helping them manage their portfolio. You're talking more about all these other things that you are doing to help the client. And I think that that's something that is really important as a professional to that, hey, look, we're doing more, way, way, way more than just helping you manage your portfolio. We're doing these other things, and that's what you should be looking for.
And the portfolio is still very important.
Yes,
We
I
don't, right?
agree 100%.
That has to be there. But yes, there
Right.
is so much more. And sometimes clients or business owners don't realize that not all advisors are created equal in the level of comprehensive or how much of the financial picture that the advisor will look at and help them with.
Yeah, I think you talk about AI, and yes, there's a lot of stuff that AI can do, but there's so much of the other stuff that it doesn't do. It's like, yes, you can throw in, hey, here, I have this amount of money. What's the best thing for me to invest in? Yes, AI can come back and give you something, but it's not really going to give you, I'm going to say, that comprehensive plan, and be able to to change and help you navigate, life and the waters that you're gonna be going through, as this happens.
And emotions get in the picture, right? We like to think that we can, write up the plan and here's the advice and hand it over and okay, this is what I need to do. I've got it. But clients come with questions. They feel vulnerable. There's navigating the emotional side to the decisions and the information, even when it's clear. So that coaching is just, I don't know that I knew that coaching was going to play such a large role when I started, but it's a very fulfilling part of the work that we do.
Yeah, I always say lots of times, as professionals, we we're talking the clients off the cliff many times because this isn't what they do every day. They're not used to it. They're not used to the stress of it, and they're being very reactionary to something that happens. And we all know if we all are reacting to the market and to things, we're in trouble if we're reacting because lots of times it's too late by then.
You make me think a lot about the year that I stepped into leadership. So I said I stepped into being a business owner at 31. It was early 2022. Let's just go back and think about 2022 for a moment. In February 2022, the war with Russia and Ukraine broke out. It was the only thing on the front page news for months on end. In 2022, being an advisor, U.S. stock market, S&P 500, it was down 18% for the year. Bonds were not a safe place to hide. Bonds were down, over 10% in 2022. And I, all of a sudden, was the leader of the firm. I had clients calling me. I had team members turning to me. I will tell you, I grew up, I didn't have the gray hairs popping through, but I surely grew up in 2022. And I think early on, there's a lot of challenges that business owners, that was the timing for me, but there's always something that happens in the life of a business owner early on. And just recognizing that it is going to be overwhelming in the beginning. And you're going from potentially being an individual contributor to being responsible for the livelihoods of people who, that shift of management, it can be exhausting. I remember telling one of my business coaches, I don't think I ever want to do this again. I wanted to be a business owner, but I didn't want to take on this undertaking that I had done. And the reality is I do want to do it again. It's just a muscle you train over time, and you learn as a business owner how to handle more with less stress.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, as a business owner, we really have learned to, you're not just looking at, you're driving, you're not looking out at the hood of the car. You're looking way, way down the road to see what's coming, where
Mhm.
most of the time your staff, your team members are looking through the rear view mirror, and it's like trying to get them. No, you got to look here, because if you're looking in the rear view mirror, you're going to miss what's coming up, and then as it goes by, you're going to try to grab it, and lots of times it's too late by then.
Correct.
All right, Morgan, we've covered a lot of stuff here. What have I not asked you wish I had?
I, one thing that I focus on a lot, and it comes to living with intention, is just how do you balance being a business owner with a family? And this has been a big area of focus for me in my last year, last 3 years, but particularly the last year. It's and for me, it's become really calendaring your life, because your business, it can take over your whole life. And you know, being completely real here, I'm a female entrepreneur and I deal with a lot of mom guilt, right? My business is my baby and my baby is my baby. And my toddler, she'll be 3 soon, has decided, no, I don't want a nap. And yes, I want to stay up late. So those working hours, they just get so much more pressure. So I think just looking back and sitting down and really thinking, like, what are those top values? Family is a top value of mine. So it's figuring out that there really isn't something called balance. It's this constant several priorities, and which one is going to take front seat at any given moment, and looking and focusing on how are you going to live a life that you're not going to look back with regrets that you missed what matters most. And it's baby steps along the way. I think the reality is we all have the exact same number of hours each week. I know for me, calendaring, finding time to just disconnect for a full day, it sounds impossible as a business owner sometimes, but that's sometimes where the best thinking happens. That's where the best ideas come from, and where you can be rejuvenated to come back and attack your business, but also make sure you show up for yourself and for your family.
Yeah, I think I definitely think you know, working, but not there in the office, some days where you're by yourself, and maybe it is sitting at the beach or whatever, and you're not talking with anybody, and you're just there with your thoughts and being able to kind of think through some of the processes, and you know, talk about the intentional and everything. It's like, okay, where really do I want to take this? What do I really want to do? And then, after deciding that, okay, how am I now going to do it? You talked earlier about having, some business coaches. I think that that's something that's extremely important as a business owner, because many of us don't create our own board of advisors that are going to hold us accountable. So why not have that business coach that's going to help keep you accountable to yourself? And I think that that's something, if you're in business for a year, if you've been in business for 20 years, that's always something that's good to have, to help you, kind of keep the train on the rails, to
I
be
agree.
succeed. Yeah. So Morgan, if people like what they hear and they want to talk to you, they want to find out where they can get your book. First, where can they get your book?
So you can go ahead and request a copy of our book. We have the website intentionallegacybook.com, and you can download a PDF, and we'll also follow up to offer if you'd like us to mail you a copy, we would be glad to.
Okay. Now, if they like what they hear and they want to talk to you about helping advise them with their wealth, how can they reach you?
I would recommend you go to our website, lifebranchwealth.com. And you can reach out to us directly from the homepage, and I'll be glad to have a conversation and dig in deeper and see if we can be helpful.
Great. Morgan, really appreciate your time today. Enjoyed our conversation.
Gary, thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed our discussion.
Great. Hey, this week my guest was Morgan E. Nichols, and she is the CEO and private wealth advisor of LifeBranch Wealth Partners. And I'll see you guys next week.